There are calls for a change to pensions and retirement and how retirees support themselves. 23% of retirees in Australia experience income poverty, a significantly higher figure than some other countries, including Canada and New Zealand.
This comes amid a heated debate about increasing the superannuation guarantee, with concern that that would lead to a poverty trap. Let's get more on this. We're joined from the Gold Coast by Henschke, the Chief Advocate for National Seniors Australia. Henschke, good to talk to you.
Good afternoon, Andrew and Katrina. Now, I think you're absolutely right. We've got a big problem in this country with pension poverty, and in fact, the Retirement Income Review, which has just taken its submissions, has had 400 submissions, I believe, and we put in 3 of them, National Seniors, one on our own, one with the Alliance for a Fairer Retirement System, and one with the Benevolent Society, focusing on pension poverty. And one thing we should remember is that 25% of women don't have any superannuation when they retire, and 13% of men. So superannuation is not the answer. Superannuation is part of the problem.
Well, can I just pick you up on that point then? Let's continue with the theme of superannuation. Now, Labor leader Anthony Albanese today gave an address where he reaffirmed the party's commitment to increase the super guarantee to 12%. But of course, many people have said that this is simply not wise in the current economic circumstances, particularly with low wage growth. What's your view on that?
Look, as an organisation, we take the advice of experts, and one of the experts in this area is Michael Rice. Now, Michael Rice just recently got the Order of Australia. He was Actuary of the Year. These are people that actually look at the numbers and crunch the numbers. And he pointed out that Australia has one of the lower superannuation levels if you look across the world, and 9.5 is low. And so there is room for it to go up. And one of the reasons we say that is because we know that people in Australia, even going into the future, are still going to be very reliant on the pension. And we will see more part-funded pensioners and less full pensioners. But I'll give you an example. I turned up here on the Gold Coast yesterday, and I took a shuttle bus from Coolangatta to the convention centre here where the self-managed super funds are having their convention. The man driving that bus was 72 years of age, and I said to him, "How much have you got in super?" He had $30,000 in superannuation, and he was working still because when he was on a pension, he had his pension cut off because he earned too much when he was driving the shuttle bus. So now he's driving full-time, 72 years of age, on shift work, going between Coolangatta and the Gold Coast with $30,000 worth of super. And, this is the real Australia. This is what we've got to address. We've got to address people like that. And also, as I said before, the 1 in 4 women who have got no superannuation when they retire. So let's focus on helping the people at the lower end who actually need that help. And that figure you quoted before, 23.5% of Australians on the pension live in poverty. It's half that in New Zealand, it's half that in Canada. This government has to recognise, and the opposition has to recognise, that we have a big problem and it has to be fixed. All
right, just before we get to your idea of how to help fix that problem, let's continue with the theme of super. ACOS, even a couple of super funds, have said that it would be dangerous at this point to raise that super guarantee to 12%. Yet Anthony Albanese says with economic growth and productivity, it's doable. So can I just get clarity from you? Which way should it go?
Well, I think, as I said before, Michael Rice, who we've quoted in our submissions to the Retirement Income Review, has said that we need to raise the level. What that figure is, we can debate that, but we've got to do a bit more than 9.5%, because if you look at what's happening in Australia, we are seeing people going into their retirement years with insufficient funds. And as I said, you've got to do something about it. But the bigger picture is pension poverty. A rich country like Australia should hang its head in shame, because if we have got, on the OECD measure, twice as much pension poverty as New Zealand and twice as much pension poverty as Canada, you have to ask yourself, what are we doing wrong? Now, this is what we should be addressing. And one of the things I would like to see the government do is allow pensioners to work if they can, like that gentleman that I talked about before, who's driving a shuttle bus at the age of 72, get him to keep his pension and top it up, because he is desperate to actually pay things like private health insurance. I mean, he's 72 years of age and he's working, 42 hours a week.
Okay,
He gets no pension or concessions, nothing.
Let me pick you up on that point then. So that's what you're advocating at the moment. You say because around a quarter of retirees are simply struggling with income poverty. So you're advocating that those retirees should be allowed to work without a cut to the pension.
Well, what we've got at the moment is we've got a thing called the Pension Work Bonus Scheme, where you're allowed to earn something around $175 a fortnight. So and you've got a tax-free threshold of $18,000. The senior Australians pension tax offset. You've got this Byzantine, convoluted system that everyone agrees needs to be made simpler. But let's focus on the people who are working and then losing 50 cents in the dollar. And do you know what? Twiggy Forrest and Rupert Murdoch and all those people don't even pay 50 cents in the dollar. The pensioners pay 50 cents in the dollar. I mean, what sort of a system do you have that you could say was fair, that when a person works more than one day, they pay 50 cents tax rate, effective tax rate? And that's not even getting onto the other issues about the deeming rate, where the government is deeming that anyone that's got any money in a bank account is earning 3%. I mean, these are some of the basic issues. You don't balance the budget on the backs of pensioners. You don't balance the budget on the backs of people like 72-year-old men with $30,000 in their account who have been kicked off the pension because they're working, because they're in poverty. You cannot justify that as a government. You cannot justify that in any way, shape or form. Another
issue in Henschke is that a lot of wealth is locked up in bricks and mortar, particularly with retirees hanging on to the family home. What would you suggest should be done about that, as far as those people that may be asset rich but of course cash poor?
Well, look, we've already said to the federal government that they need to do something about the pension loan scheme, which they did. They brought that in and they widened it out to all Australians. And I don't know whether your listeners realise this or your viewers realise this, but as of July last year, every Australian who lives in a home can go to Centrelink and they can actually get what is the effective reverse mortgage. The only problem is the government had the rate set at 5.25%. They've lowered it to 4.5%, but that's still too high. If we want people to use their home to fund their retirement, offer them a scheme that's better than that. I congratulate the government for listening to us, because we said that it was ridiculous to be bank bashing over interest rates while they had a pension loan scheme of 5.25%. But let's bring it down to a level where people will actually consider that. I would say probably 3.5 would be about a fair figure, because you're paying people to fund their own retirement in that case. So these are people who will pay for aged care and things like that. So I think it's really important that we have schemes like that. But I'm talking about housing. Let's not forget, the latest figures show that by 2050, 57% of Australians will retire owning their own home. At the moment, it's around 80%. So we've got a big problem in terms of housing. There are so many issues out there that the government should be looking at in this area, and they should remember every second voter today is over 50. And I think we're a bit more concerned about those issues than some of the sideline issues about who's going to be the leader of the National Party. That's the sort of stuff we don't want to be watching. We don't want to be watching about things about freedom of expression, all these things. Get down to the basics as a government, fix pension poverty, take it away from government, put it in the hands of an independent tribunal. You could get someone like Michael Rice, the Actuary of the Year, to do the sums, provide them with the information and do it properly. Get on with the job of running the country and helping people. That's what we say they should be doing. And if Anthony Albanese today is talking about the issues of older Australians, I congratulate him. Let's focus on that.
Ian Henschke from National Seniors Australia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.